takes. A lot of y'all got them, so I took to my community tab on YouTube and asked you, the community, what's your best video game hot take? And we're gonna discuss them on this video, but before we do me a favor. If you got a hot take, leave it in the comment section below and you could appear in a future video. That being said, let's see what kind of foolishness we can get into today. And our next hot take comes from Mr. Skull Merchant, who goes on to say, The Last of Us Part 2 is way better than the first. Now that's what I'm talking about, man. I said, let me hear some hot takes, and some of y'all be writing stuff that is not. This is a hot take, and respectfully, I disagree. You are allowed to like The Last of Us Part 2, but not only is it not better, it's not way better. I can say for a multitude of reasons. There's not a single moment in The Last of Us 2 that hits like the beginning or the ending of the first Last of Us. The beginning when Joel loses his daughter, I damn near shed a thug tear, like, cause you felt the emotion that was convicted in that. And then at the end, when basically Joel turns into a, cause like people, and that's another reason like part 2 is, people were like, why did Joel die in part 2? It was Joel deserved to die. Joel was a villain. When Joel turned into a villain at the end of the second game, I understood why. Because, you know, he was a father, even though that wasn't his actual kid, but you know, Ellie became his daughter. I think, as much as I dislike The Last of Us Part 2, I think The Last of Us Part 1, that ending was one of the best endings in a video game. And the reason I think it's one of the best endings in a video game is because a lot of times we get caught up in like these happy endings, but like that ending was great because it was real. The world was on the line. He had a chance to potentially save the world. And I mean, if you explored the game and like read the notes, and you would see they were trying to find cures. So it was kind of like a 50-50. There was no guarantee that Ellie was actually going to cure anybody if they experimented on her blood or whatever. And he was, you know, some doubts came in his mind, as well as he was just in love with this kid as if it was his own daughter. And he had a very human moment where instead of trying to save humanity, he chose to do something selfish for himself in a world where it just kept fucking him over. And that, in my opinion, was a great ending because it wasn't your generic happy ending, but also it was realistic because it tapped into human emotions. And y'all know I've been slandering Naughty Dog since The Last of Us 2 came out and all these goddamn remasters of The Last of Us 1. But one thing I'm not gonna take away from them is when The Last of Us 1 came out, it was very impactful. I thought the story was great for the most part. The Last of Us 2 just does not have any moments that hit the same, in my opinion, as The Last of Us 1. The whole story, revenge is bad. I just felt like, based off the first game, I thought they were gonna do something leading up to the ending that was gonna have a better conclusion. And the conclusion, the gist of it is, and hardcore Last of Us Part 2 fans swear it's not, revenge is bad was the gist of the argument. And I'm like, who doesn't know that? Like, it was just like, Like The Last of Us 2 wasn't a bad game. Like mechanically, it wasn't a bad game, but the story was just kind of Now, where I do think people will like overhated The Last of Us 2 is like the hate for what was the second girl that you played? God damn it, now I feel bad. Second playable character in Last of Us 2. This is how forgettable the game is. I can't remember was it Abby? I don't know why it was slipping my brain. People had a lot of hate for her. I didn't really care. I actually thought she had some of the best moments in the game, like the action scenes and stuff like that. But I just don't think The Last of Us 2 objectively is a better game than the first one. There's plot holes. It doesn't stick its landing. I don't feel like, although the gameplay was good in The Last of Us 2, I don't feel like they reiterated the gameplay enough. It was a very safe sequel. I disagree. You're allowed to like it, but I disagree. Hopefully they improve things with The Last of Us Part 3, but 2 was just a miss. Oh, and before I even wrap this up, The Last of Us Part 2 arguably had one of the worst segments I've ever seen in a fucking video game. That section when you were in the museum and like Ellie had on the astronaut helmet and shit, that shit it was so boring. It was cheesy. It was cringy. They were trying to tap into the human emotion and it just didn't hit the same the way that things did in the first game. And I think that was due to poor writing. So respectfully, I disagree. So our next hot take comes from Papa Jupiter, who goes on to say, Grand Theft Auto 5 was a boring game and we're all just blinded by nostalgia. This one got 5 thumbs up, and even Aaron agrees and goes on to further elaborate by saying, Grand Theft Auto 5 is such a slog. I still never beat it. I just watched the last few cutscenes on YouTube so I could wrap up the story for myself. Grand Theft Auto 4 was a much better game, and 3 to San Andreas were revolutionary. And to that, I say to you, brothers, I agree with this hot take. I'm gonna be honest, I never beat Grand Theft Auto 5. I got bored with the game halfway through. I just felt like they didn't do anything to push the boundaries. Once you got past the updated visuals, I didn't really feel myself gravitating towards any of the characters. I'm gonna be honest, when you say Grand Theft Auto, the first thing I think of is, oh shit, here we go again, or Nico, let's go bowling. The only thing, and I could quote so much from all the other Grand Theft Auto games, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head I remember from Grand Theft Auto 5 from the story is, and this is bad, by the way, this shouldn't be the only thing I remember from your story. You remember at the beginning of the game when Franklin was talking to his, I think it was his best friend or whatever, and he was like, with that yee ass haircut, no, like that. No, that should not be the only thing I remember from your game, y'all. So you know what? I'm gonna take a step further. My favorite Grand Theft Auto game is not even a Grand Theft Auto game. It's a game that was inspired by Grand Theft Auto. It started off as a clone, but then eventually became its own thing. My favorite open world crime game is Saints Row 2. The characters, the story, so many memorable missions, what's the name? Creating a fraud when you, that sounds crazy out of context, but creating insurance fraud, that mini game was just memorable. Saints Row 2 is a classic open world crime game. And just to throw another one out there that's in my top 5, Sleeping Dogs. If you have not played this, I remember I made a review about that game and I praised Sleeping Dogs to the heavens. And it fell on deaf ears, but like over the last 5 years, I feel like that game has really gotten like a cult-like following. If you can catch it on a Steam sale or an Xbox or a PSN sale for the low, $3 to like $5, please play it. One of the greatest open world crime games, really unique twist on it. But yeah, Saints Row 2 is my personal favorite. After that, I'd probably say Grand Theft Auto 4 is my favorite one. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Grand Theft Auto 5 is cool, but I feel like people love it more for the online than the actual story. Like the actual story just didn't hit the same for me, and I'm hoping they come correct with Grand Theft Auto 6. Our next hot take comes from Robert Smith, who goes on to say, motion controls are just better. And to you, I say, I respectfully disagree. Motion controls, when used correctly, can be okay, but some of my least favorite gaming memories come from that Wii era where motion controls are super heavy, and the Kinect, yo, Angry Joe's run of reviews when he would review the motion control, the Kinect games for the Xbox 3, no, it was the Xbox One era. I'm Han Solo, yo, Angry Joe went on a crazy run. I damn near threw my shoulder out playing The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And then on top of that, a lot of the motion controls, they're better now, but when they first came out, they were horrible. If you remember the Wii when it launched, that thing, you were playing the boxing, I'm gonna be honest, you just throwing punches, it was not tracking. It was just doing random shit on the screen. The Wii became better when it came out with the Wiimote Plus. Then it tracked you like 1-to-1 and things got better. But then the Kinect came out, that was one of the worst. I remember I had this fighting game on the Xbox One. That was one of the worst video games that I ever played. And it's also home to some of the worst shovelware known to man. Motion controls, no thank you, no thank you, no. I think motion controls is one of the reasons why the PS Vita didn't succeed. They should have put extra, they had L1 and R1 on it, but they didn't put the 2s on the back. Instead, they put motion touch controls on that shit. No. Respectfully, I disagree. It wasn't fun. And our next hot take comes from Mimi822, who goes on to say, Sonic is better than Mario. And to that I say, I completely disagree. I can make the argument Mario not is subjectively, but objectively better than Sonic for a multitude of reasons, right? If Sonic was so good, why did Sega collapse on the hardware department? Sonic was great, right? Why wasn't Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 selling like hotcakes on the Dreamcast? If Sonic was so great, it would have kept them afloat. Mario, you could definitely, you could add Zelda in there, but you could definitely make the argument Mario. Actually, no, Mario did save Nintendo, because Nintendo was a company that was damn near on the verge of bankruptcy, because originally they were a card making company. They came out with that NES with Mario, and it breathed a whole new, for those who are unaware, Nintendo was not original. They've been around since the 1800s. They were not originally a video game company. They used to make card games. Then they came out with the Game & Watches, and those little portable things that that was kind of their first little foray. Then they came out with Mario. They was the fuck up out of here. If Sonic was so great, why did Sega stop making hardware? Because he ain't selling like that. And the way we also know that he ain't selling like that, because still to this day, I swear at least once a year, an article comes out about Sega is financially in trouble. Yakuza is keeping Sega alive. Them Atlas games, are keeping Sega alive. But Sonic, he has more misses than hits. He's got some good games, but he's got more misses than hits. Another reason I could argue Mario, it's called Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. It's not called Sonic and Mario. The fact that Mario has a home and Sonic doesn't, Sonic's just all over the place on every other platform, and it's not by choice, it's because they have to. There's no way you can argue that Sonic, I mean, you're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to feel that way, but I'm gonna have to strongly disagree with that one. Mario, Sonic is only having a kind of resurgence because of the movies. That's how you know. That's how I'm gonna end this whole argument, right? We're gonna wrap this one up, right? Sonic is only even in the conversation right now because of the movies. The last Sonic game that came out, the Sonic All-Stars one that came out last year, that shit flopped. Last time I checked, it sold 4,000 copies in Japan. Ain't nobody buying that shit. Sonic is having a resurgence because of the movies, not even the games. Anytime a Mario game comes out, it sells like hotcakes. Shit, even Luigi. And the movies are popping. No. Sonic is not a factor. But you know what is a factor? Today's sponsor, Factor Meals. Factor is a meal prep service that makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. Their team of gourmet chefs create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Their service allows you to keep your kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes, and there's no shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. And with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Now, for longtime viewers, you know I used to weigh almost 300 pounds, but a few years ago, I decided to take a hold of my health and get myself back into shape. What most of you don't know unless you frequent my live streams is, one of the tools I used in my weight loss journey was Factor. See, portion control has always been one of my biggest issues, and their perfectly portioned, ready-to-heat, delicious meals solved that problem for me. So when they reached out to sponsor this channel, it was an automatic yes for me because I had already had a previously solid experience with them where I came out of my own pocket. What I love about Factor is they have so many nutritious options to keep my fridge well stocked, and the best part is that Factor is flexible. I can easily adjust my own order, enjoy with loved ones, or even skip a week when I have a special event to attend. So I personally can't recommend Factor enough. Head on over to factor75.com or click the link in the description box below and use code Hokage50 to get 50% off of your first Factor box and 20% off your next month's orders. That's code Hokage50 at checkout at factor75.com to get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off your next month's order. Our next hot take comes from Sharik, who had 18 thumbs up. This was interesting. A lot of people agree with this. And he said, gaming died when it went mainstream. And to that, respectfully, I completely disagree. Gaming died? That means gaming is dead. I asked you what's your hot takes on video games. And if you replied, that means you play video games. So you actually contradicted yourself by saying gaming is dead. How is it dead if you just replied to a thread where I asked you what's your hot take on gaming? That point aside, I completely disagree. Like, gaming companies are raking in record profits. There are more players than ever. It passed movies a long time ago. It's the biggest form of media than ever. Now, gaming is not dead. If you want to say gaming has a new set of problems since it went mainstream, then I would agree with you. Because although they're raking in record profits, these companies are not paying their developers. They are not paying their PR people. A lot of the money is going to the pockets of the CEOs. So unfortunately, the biggest issue is actually capitalism. That's the issue. It's not gaming is dead. There are still great games that have came out in the last 5 to 10 years. Like I said, 2023 was one of the best gaming years of all time. And if you disagree, you most likely didn't play any games, which we know a lot of y'all don't, because I'm going to keep bringing up that article that 60% of y'all play games that are 6 years or older, like Fortnite and Roblox. Yeah, if all you play is Roblox, it might feel like gaming died. But in the span of the launch of Roblox, a lot of things have came out. So like, I completely disagree. And like I said, I already picked apart your argument because you contradicted yourself. If you really feel like gaming died, you wouldn't be following a gaming channel. You wouldn't be responding to a thread asking what are your hot takes on gaming, because then you wouldn't even be playing. Like, I don't know what we're talking about. So our next hot take comes from Bushido Mayfield, who goes on to say, we need more lewd mods for female characters, uncensored in games for the player's comfort. And this got 4 thumbs up. And to this, I say, for those of you unaware, there's a petition going around. It went viral on Twitter. There's a petition going around because there's a skin in Stellar Blade, which is like the sexiest game of the year. And in that skin, they, you know, it didn't show her coochie, but, you know, it showed like the outer a little bit, like one of the skins that she wears is like a one piece or whatever. So they patched it and they made it so it covers more of her body. And a lot of people are crying censored censorship, even though it was the developer's decision. It wasn't like somebody forced them. They felt the need to do that. But there's a certain segment of gamers that are crying censorship. This is not cool. This is not what I paid for. And there's a petition going around online that went viral, basically calling for them to unpatch it and bring back even more sexiness to Stellar Blade. And in that petition, feel free to look it up. I'm not going to play any of it. Feel free to look it up. On Twitter, people are posting videos of people who are in that petition. And let's just say people making statements like this, they look exactly how you would expect them to look, and they talk exactly how you expect them to look. It's fucking funny. Just search on Twitter the Stellar Blade petition videos. You will get a good laugh. That's the only reason I'm highlighting this comment. So our next hot take comes from Faraf. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but they go on to say the high amount of adults that play video games is ruining gaming. And this got 1 thumbs up. So apparently somebody agrees out there. And respectfully, I disagree. So the first way I could just pick apart this argument is you are on my gaming channel responding to my thread about your hot take on gaming, and you said your response is that adults are ruining gaming, the high number of adults, but I'm an adult, you're watching me. Like, I wouldn't exist like making this content if I was a kid. Anyways, also, the average gamer is 35 plus years old because a lot of people have grown up, they're playing games. And the thing is, if those people, if the largest portion of gamers are adults and they all stopped, a lot of your favorite games would never be made because the adults are the ones that have the spending power. If it's just the kids on Roblox, I mean, half the reason the kids play Roblox is because it's free. Fortnite, that too, like those type of games. If the 35 plus crowd stops playing games in like the early 20s, the people that are generating the cash, basic economics, a lot of your favorite games will not exist anymore. So to say that adults are ruining games, I don't know. This is like, I'm just gonna assume this is like a kid typing on the damn keyboard. Like, yo, get off your mom's iPad, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. Stay in school. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. The Lin Kui goes on to say, Back 4 Blood wasn't a terrible game, ... And to that I say, I actually agree. Back 4 Blood was not a terrible game. And to be fair, I don't think anybody said it was. If I go look at the reviews, I would probably guess that most people said it was mid. In my personal opinion, the game was mid. It wasn't a bad game. I played it. I think you have to understand the reason it didn't succeed in the long term is because there's more competition than ever. So you have to make a great product. There's more games than ever for people to choose from, but people have a limited amount of money. Inflation is on the rise. The price of games is on the rise. So what I tell developers all the time is you better get it right the first time, because people don't have an unlimited amount of money and people just don't want to shell out 50, 60, 70 bucks for just a mid game. They want something dope that they can extract a lot of value from. So unfortunately, gaming is almost like a reflection of current day capitalism. At least in the United States, they say that the middle class is shrinking. I think the middle class is gone. You got basically rich people and poor people. And I feel like gaming is like a reflection of that. You got your really well-made AAA games and you got everything else, and you have to stick that landing. Otherwise, you're just gonna get lost in the sauce. And I think Back 4 Blood got lost in the sauce. There's no room for just an okay game because people don't have unlimited funds, man. So our next hot take comes from Chaz, who goes on to say the new God of War Ragnarok is mid. I don't want to play puzzles on my time off. I don't need a break from the action or downtime while playing games, since this is my break in my downtime. Running around for 10 minutes on a flat surface and banging your character into a wall using triangle pop-ups is never fun. Riding a cow for 2 hours is not fun. Ragnarok is painfully mediocre and the worst game in the series. The ending was cute though, because that's what Kratos is now. Cute. And then Aaron, who also is gonna probably appear in this video for something else, goes on to say, you're acting as if the OG games didn't have puzzles, downtime, and overused QTEs. They literally advertise as platforming and puzzle action games. Okay, so I got a couple things I want to say on this. First and foremost, I don't feel like this is a hot take, Chaz. This would have been a hot take when Ragnarok first came out because you couldn't tell the God of War fanboys anything. But now that it's been a couple years and the dust has cleared, I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. I think a lot of people think God of War 2018 was much better than Ragnarok. Going on to what Aaron is saying though, and you were saying that the OG games had puzzles, downtime, and overused QTEs. That's true. Where I would disagree and where I would agree more with Chaz is, although the older games did have it, I think what Chaz is trying to articulate and he failed to is there's a pacing issue, and that was the biggest issue with Ragnarok. I don't think anybody had an issue with the puzzles and the downtime in Ragnarok. It was the excess amount in exchange for the gameplay, like the price to performance, right? Like I remember like one of the moments that really triggered the fuck out of me in Ragnarok is there was a moment, I think you had to beat like a big ass werewolf or something in that ice area. You had this epic boss fight, which was a lot of fun, right? And right after the boss fight, do you walk away and a cutscene plays and then you go to like more? No, you walk out the arena and it makes you do a puzzle. Like, your brain is already fried from the boss fight, and now I had to do a puzzle to open the door just to get to the next section. Fuck that. In that section, the door should just open, bruh. I think what he's trying to articulate, and a lot of people had an issue with Ragnarok, is the pacing was just off. But the pacing in the original God of War games, I feel like the puzzles and the downtime was done much better. It's just like there was way too many puzzles in Ragnarok. They were placed at the most inconvenient and inappropriate times, and I think the game suffered because of it. Still a good game, but I would define it as good but disappointing. I think Ragnarok was disappointing. So our next hot take comes from Rohan, who goes on to say the Uncharted franchise is easily the most overrated thing in gaming's recent memory. And Gogeta actually agrees with him and says, I couldn't agree more. I played the trilogy in 2016 and I didn't get it. I feel like it was a case of you just had to be there. Great graphics and some fun characters, but everything else this game does, I've seen other games do way better. And to this hot take, I agree. This is something I've been saying on the podcast at youtube.com/GIupdates for years, and I have a theory about this. So first and foremost, I disagree, and then we're gonna get into where I agree. I don't think Uncharted is the most overrated thing in recent gaming memory. I would say Uncharted is overrated. Now, where I do agree in terms of the overration conversation is, my theory of why so many people love Uncharted is because, and I could be wrong, there could be some exceptions, but just from talking to people in my own anecdotal data, I don't have enough data, I'd put Uncharted gamers in the same group of people who recently were crying that Spider-Man 2 didn't win Game of the Year. They were surprised. Like, if you were surprised and you don't have to like Baldur's Gate 3, but if you were surprised Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year, I don't think you play games. You're just not really in the know. You're a little bit more, you're casual, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're casual and you're not aware of what's going on in the greater culture. The same people who are upset that Elden Ring won Game of the Year over Ragnarok, it's those same group of gamers. They play a very specific type of game and they don't play anything else. And because they play that, it blows their mind. Now, going back to Uncharted, and I'm gonna bring this full circle. What I mean is, my theory about people who love or like super hardcore about Uncharted, same thing with the Spider-Man 2 fans. A lot of those people play Fortnite, Call of Duty, 2K, FIFA, which is cool. They play a lot of those type of games. So every once in a while, when they do, jump out of their comfort zone and they play a game like Uncharted, it's mind blowing to them. Like, think of it from that perspective. It's mind blowing. But I've been saying for years, first of all, Uncharted is just Indiana Jones. Second, it's a generic third-person shooter. I think the best thing about Uncharted is the multiplayer. The multiplayer in Uncharted 4 was fun as fuck. Swinging around, jumping around, punching a motherfucker in the head and shit. Like, its multiplayer was the most innovative thing about the gameplay, but like from the story and the single player standpoint, it was just a very, very well-produced, great graphics, great set pieces. And I think it appealed to a certain group of people who just don't play a lot of games. So to them, that is like mind blowing. It's like the next thing. But like people who play a lot of games, like I've played Uncharted before. I played it like Tomb Raiders just like Uncharted. If you want to do a deep cut, like Spec Ops: The Line, that's another third person shooter, way better than Uncharted. It's not an exploration game. It's a military shooter with a whole psyop element. One of the greatest stories of all time ever told in a video game. Play Spec Ops: The Line. I can name a bunch of third-person shooters that are better than Uncharted. Like I said, I just don't think they played a lot of games, and that's okay. Like, they're allowed to like the shit, dog. And our next hot take comes from Metal Nerd 99, who goes on to say, there is nothing wrong with playing a game on easy mode if you just want to have fun. And to that I say, I completely agree. Some people are not interested in sweating in a goddamn game. They paid $70, they just got off of work, and they just want to enjoy a good power fantasy. So some of y'all need to chill out there trying to tell people what difficulty they should play on a game. Let people enjoy their game. That being said, and this is just coming from a content creator's perspective, but honestly, you could probably apply this to your life too, if this applies to like some of your friends. If you do play games on easy or very easy, I don't want to hear your opinion on my gameplay. And the reason what I mean is, here's an example of some statistics that came out last year during Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is actually from the official EA Star Wars account, if you don't believe me. And they posted what percentage of players beat what difficulty in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, 30% of people beat the game on easy and very easy. And over 50% of y'all beat the game on normal. What that says to me is over 80% of y'all play the game on easy or normal, which is crazy. Like the 30%, that's a big number. A lot of y'all are playing on easy or normal. I don't want to hear your fucking opinion if I'm playing the game on hard because I'm playing a completely different game. The AI is smarter, more aggressive. I have to use more of my tools, different strategies. I beat the game on Jedi Grandmaster, and when I was streaming it, so many people were telling me, oh, you need, because I like using the heavy lightsaber. There's multiple different stances. Oh, you need to stop using the heavy lightsaber and you need to use the double blade. I was fucking cracking up when this statistic came out. No wonder you just breezed through the game. Only 4% of people beat this game on Jedi Grandmaster, okay? Don't tell me how to fucking play the game. And the funny part is, if anybody was in that stream, you saw I beat the game with the heavy blade, and I proved you can beat the game with the heavy blade. It's in the fucking game. Obviously, they tested it. It means that it can work. That's all I ask is from a content creator perspective. If most of y'all are beating y'all games on easy, stop trying to give me advice. This is funny because this statistic further plays into how 60% of y'all don't be playing. I would chill. I just wanted to roast motherfuckers. I just wanted to roast. I'm sorry. So our next hot take comes from Bagman Strong, who goes on to say, with the advancements in technology, controller design, and overall user performance, aim assist should not exist in any competitive shooter. And I completely disagree with this hot take for a multitude of reasons. First of all, controller design has not evolved that much. Xbox has been making the same damn controller since Xbox 360, but to be fair, probably because it's the best controller to ever exist. But anyways, I don't agree aim assist shouldn't exist on controllers, because as somebody who plays on PC and console, it's always an adjustment switching from mouse and keyboard and going back and playing controller. It's just not precise compared to mouse and keyboard. So having that little bit of aim assist definitely helps. I think maybe they can tune back a little bit on the aim assist so, you know, it's not 100% holding people's hands, but I think it's necessary. Also, I think maybe you have this perspective because maybe you feel like a lot of people on controller are great, and in reality, a lot aren't. A lot of people are cheaters, especially in that Warzone community. Chronos and Chronos Zen, which is how you cheat on controller. I saw a tweet like a couple months ago. The sales were up like 5,000%. Between 2K and goddamn Call of Duty, motherfuckers is cheating. So people are not as good with a controller as you think, and that's because not only do they need aim assist, they need somebody literally to aim for them. So I disagree with it. I think you should keep it in the game. If you want to make the argument, maybe dial it back a little bit, maybe, but I don't feel like controllers are as accurate as mouse and keyboard. And this is coming from somebody who jumps between both. I'm like gaming ambidextrous. Is that what you call it? And people who, I don't know, people who play both. Back me up. How do y'all feel? Do y'all feel like aim assist is too much on controller? What do y'all think? And now that we're done fighting over these silly video game hot takes, why don't you do me a favor and check out my previous video where I discuss some fighting games that need to return, because fighting games are in a bit of something of a renaissance, and I think it's time for some of these cult classics to return. If you want to know what fighting games should, click the card on the screen.